Yes. Have you seen the Raptors?
Have you
Toronto's
seen?
getting swept. Write it down.
Whoa.
Toronto getting swept.
Okay.
All right, it's that time of the year. The Toronto Raptors are going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers. I know Shaq already rescinded his original prediction.
Rescind it. Strike that from the table.
All right.
Okay.
It never happened.
But hey, in Toronto, we're petty. We're going to keep the receipts. Jevohn, how are you feeling about this series?
Well, first, what does Shaq know? He doesn't even know Pascal's first name.
But you got your eyes on Pascal.
No, I got my eyes on Siakam.
Pascal Siakam.
I never knew his first name.
So that's one thing there. But no, I think this is going to be a big time series, and I think the interesting part is that it seems like every time these two teams play, they fight, they go out and fight, but they have two completely different rosters, right? So I think that's going to be interesting. And now obviously Toronto's trending healthy to have that group together to play against this Philly squad. I think it's going to be a big time matchup.
You talked about the history. 2001, you had Vince Carter and Allen Iverson. 2019 redemption, Kawhi Leonard with the bounce shot.
You can still hear the pin drop.
Looks at the clock, turns the corner for the win. Got it! Kawhi Leonard with the game winner.
There's a lot of people in this city and this country that can watch that for days, for months, for years to come. Let's get right into this matchup, though. You've got the Raptors, Sixers in that 4-5 matchup. Looking at the starting lineups, point guard off the top, Fred VanVleet on one side, James Harden on the other. How do you see that playing out?
It's interesting, right? Because I think Fred, you can never contest his heart. He's going to go out there and fight. He's been, one of the best guards in the league defensively. And he's a natural-born winner. We've seen that since his days at Wichita State in the G League and obviously winning a championship in 2019 here. And I think he rises to the occasion, rises to the challenge, right? The thing with James Harden, he can go out there and score 30 on any given night, even give you 40. But I haven't seen that burst in him. I haven't seen that conviction, that playing with that much intent. I'm not sure if he's taking a step back and finding his way into this team, which this is playoff. There's no time for that. Or, he just doesn't have it right now. It's one of those two. So, the ceiling of James Harden, but I'm erring on the side of Fred with this one.
I think it's interesting, though, because when you look at Fred VanVleet, he's had his share of struggles, too, right? Shooting 29% from three since the All-Star break. His drives are down, doesn't have that burst, much like James Harden. So, this could be the battle of the wounded, and we'll have to see who comes out on top. Tyrese Maxey, Gary Trent Jr., two guys that can light it up. Who do you like?
For me, this matchup right here is the difference maker in this series, right? And I think for the Raptors, having Gary Trent Jr. on the floor and having him shoot at a high clip is going to be so important because it's going to force Embiid to play defense, right? You can't just focus on, 2 or 3 other players. As long as he's stretching the floor, then you allow, Pascal, you allow OG back into this mix to roam, slash and get to the basket and put pressure on Embiid, right, and force him to play that defense, not just, exert his energy or save his energy on the offensive side. And I think that's going to be the key there, also allowing those guys to draw force fouls on him as well. So I think he's got to be that key point. Is he going to have the ball in his hands as much as we like or we've seen? Probably not, but he's going to be available to knock down shots, and it's going to be so important for this group.
Yeah, I really like what Tyrese Maxey has brought to the table. He has definitely delivered since that Harden trade has gone down. It's a question of whether Harden can be the number 2 guy that everyone expected or thought he might be next to Embiid. Well, between Maxey and Gary Trent Jr., this might be an unpopular pick, but I'm going to give the edge to Maxey here. Let's move on to Danny Green versus OG Anunoby. Obviously, OG is coming off injury, and we'll have to see what that rust versus rest equation is going to look like for him. But Danny Green, he's had his ups and downs this season as well. How do you see that playing out?
This is going to be an interesting one, right? And I think OG has the ability to really change this Raptors team, right? When he had come back from that finger injury, he was shooting the ball well. The team went off on 5-0 when he stepped into that lineup there, and I thought you should see the impact that he has. But again, he was out, may come back with some rust. He got to, get some wind playing against the Knicks in the last regular season game. But he's got to come out there and he's got to have an impact early, right? And I think where Danny Green's concerned. Similar to what I felt about Gary Trent Jr. with the Raptors, I feel like Danny has that impact, right? Shooting the ball and making shots is going to open up the floor for Embiid, and then obviously Harden getting downhill and really being crafty and scoring the basketball as well. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I'm going to give OG the nod on this one because I know the impact and the presence that he can have and how he elevates this team when he's playing at an elite level. Yeah,
I'm with you there. I think OG Anunoby should take this matchup. Health aside, unless he's dealing with something much more serious now, I don't see that being an issue for OG to win that matchup with Danny. Let's look at the rookie, hopefully the rookie of the year, Scotty Barnes, going up against Tobias Harris.
Got to go Scotty. Got to go Scotty on this one. It's a no-brainer. He is the rookie of the year. I'm speaking it into existence. But again, Scotty's one of those guys, and I think he has this old school game, this hard-nosed game, and I think this type of ball, this playoff ball, is where we're really we got a good sample size this season. It's where you really get to see this come into play because he's gritty, he's tough, he's not afraid to use his physicality or play with contact, and he moves the ball, right? He can get down, he moves the ball, uses length, play a number of positions. So I give this one to him, and I don't know if Tobias can really stay in front of him because, again, he's gotten so much better over the season.
This matchup is funny because when you look over at the Sixers, this is where I start to get concerned about them. And you look at, hey, how much of a threat is Tobias Harris really, right? And with Scotty Barnes, I'm so excited to see him in the playoffs. We saw the level he jumped to after the All-Star break. I think there's even another gear in him right now. I think back to Dwayne Wade's rookie season, and yeah, it was a good year, and then the playoffs came, and it was like, wow, this kid is special. And I think anyone that hasn't had the chance to watch Scotty yet is about to see a really special player. Jevohn, we go over to the big one now. Joel Embiid versus Pascal Siakam. Obviously, they might not match up all the time. The Raptors are so switchable, and their style of play is so unique. But who do you have winning the best player of the series?
It hurts me to say this, but Embiid has dominated all season long, right? And obviously is leading the league in points, won the scoring title there. And I think just his impact, there's nobody that can guard him one-on-one, right? And you're not going to get that with the Raptors. Luckily, they found some recipe for him in terms of just throwing bodies at him and their interchangeability. But again, probably the most dominant player I've seen since Shaq, right? And just getting in there, can control the game, can play on the perimeter, can move the ball. But does he do it all the time? No. I think the Raptors are really going to have to crowd him. He's going to turn it over because that's one thing he wants to do. Sometimes he likes to show you his guard game and get in transition as well and do a little too much. But, Pascal, obviously we've seen what Pascal can do. He's been one of the best players in the league this year. Has really elevated his game, but this is a tough matchup. This is the best big in the NBA right now, and he's not just a low post big. He's a guy that can stretch it, he can put the ball on the floor, and he has some size to him that's hard for guys to guard.
Jevohn, you're going to have some Bucks fans calling you about who the most dominant player has been since Shaq, but when you look at this matchup, I'm with you. Joel Embiid should be the best player in this series. Nick Nurse is going to find a way to make life as difficult as possible for him, but for me, the question is, how much of a gap there will be between Embiid and Siakam. And so if Siakam can be the second best player in the series, knock Harden out of the equation, close that gap. We saw that game in Toronto. Pascal puts up a 37-point triple-double. Frankly, in that game, he was the best player on the court, including Embiid. So there is that opportunity there for him to close that gap. And if he can do that, then I think the Raptors will be feeling pretty good. All right, Jevohn, we've got the matchups down. We've got the Raptors slightly edging it in that starting five. Do we have it right? Let us know in the comments. Please hit us up. Tell Jevohn how wrong he is, and we'll hit you back.